Welcome, everyone. Today is Wednesday, February the 9th, 2022, and this is the Cluster API community meeting. Cluster API is a SIG cluster lifecycle subproject, and as such, we are following the Kubernetes community guidelines. So that generally means treat everyone the way you would expect to be treated, and let's keep things positive and fun. So starting off with our agenda, we'll start with the open proposal readouts. Usually what we've been doing is giving folks a chance to talk here. So if anyone would like to report on any of these, I'll just take a few minutes here and see if anyone raises their hand. Matt, go ahead.
Thanks, Mike. Yeah, we finally got around to creating a PR for the proposal for machine pool machines. And so that's out there this morning. There have been some changes, but it's not radically different from the doc. There's also I haven't linked to it yet from this, but there's also a proof of concept implementation for CAPI and for the Docker provider that I just opened. So there's still a little work to be done, but if anybody has any feedback at all, we would love it on the proposal. We want to get this done. It's been out there for almost a year.
All right, great. Thanks for the update. And yeah, so I guess if anybody out there could take a look at the PRs and the open issues, that'd be awesome. Any other updates on the open proposals? Okay, I see two people have raised their hands, but let me see if I can get the participants list up. Awesome. Okay, Fabrizio, why don't you go ahead?
Quick one. I have added a link to a Google Doc about the Cluster API runtime SDK proposal. I will have a point in agenda. We'll talk briefly later when it is my moment.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, looking forward to that one. Rohit, why don't you go next?
Thank you, Mike. Allow me to introduce myself. I'm Rohit Yadav from the Apache Cloud Stack project, and we have actually added an agenda item to talk about a cluster API provider for Cloud Stack. We are new to the SIG, so we just look forward to get guidance on, what's the process of getting the provider accepted in the SIG. And we put together one doc to just go through this. This is still work in progress. So, I mean, we can talk more in detail when we'll go into our specific agenda, but we're just here to kind of build consensus, some kind of support with the SIG. Just to say hi, and with me joining my colleagues from AWS. So I work for ShapeBlue, and this work is a joint collaboration between AWS and ShapeBlue. And from AWS side, we got Peter and Vipin on this call.
And Vignesh as well. So we have 3 folks from the AWS side. Great to meet you all.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, Rohit. This proposal looks really exciting, so it's pretty cool. We're gonna we usually take a break after the readouts to let the new attendees introduce themselves. So I'll give one more second to see if there were any other readouts, and then maybe Rohit, some of your colleagues can jump on and say hi. So were there any other updates for open proposals? All right, I'm not seeing any more hands raised, although Rohit, you still have your hand up. I don't know if you wanted to, did you have something else to add? Or so I guess now we'll go to our welcome new attendees. So if anyone would like to introduce themselves and say, hey, please feel free to unmute and yeah, introduce yourself.
Great. I'll go. Hey, everyone. My name is Vipin Mohan. I'm a principal product manager at AWS working on some of the Kubernetes initiatives. Great to be on the SIG. I've been on some SIGs before, but great to be on this one and great to meet you all.
Awesome. Great to meet you too, Vipin. Welcome.
Thank you.
Hey there. I'll go ahead. Peter Matkowski, Senior Software Development Manager at AWS, supporting some of the Kubernetes efforts that Vipin had mentioned. First time joining this session. Nice to meet everyone.
Awesome. Welcome, Peter.
Hi, I'm Matt. Don't normally attend this meeting. I work for Red Hat. I work on Cluster API provider OpenStack. And I'm here mostly to try and stay on top of things we should be interested in our cloud provider.
Awesome. Welcome, Matt. Great to have you.
So I continue next. Hi, I'm Johannes. I'm a software engineer for Daimler TSS, where we leverage Kapi for our own Kubernetes as a service offering. And the experience we made so far has really been great. So first of all, thanks guys for all your hard work on Kapi and all the providers. And yeah, we are really interested in all that's planned for Kapi in the future and looking forward to contribute to the project as good as we can. So yeah, so you'll probably see me here around more frequently. So hi guys.
Welcome, Johannes. That's awesome to hear. We love hearing more from users who are actually putting Cluster API to use. All right, is anyone else thinking about unmuting and say hi? All right, perhaps we've rounded up everybody. So let's move on to the discussion topics. Looks like first up, Fabrizio, you've got a bunch of stuff to go over here. So why don't you take it away?
Yeah, I try to keep it short. So first of all, let's try to upgrade to v1.1. Second, we have older release that are slowly going end of support. So the first one going end of support will be v1 Alpha 3 at the end of February. What I'm proposing is that we will issue an additional patch release in April. So we go 1 month after end of support. After that date, basically we will stop to issue regular patch release, and the emergency patch release will be up to maintainer discretion. The only things that we will continue to support until a date that we have to all agree upon is the conversion between v1 Alpha 3 and v1 Beta 1. But the branch itself is going to be stopped, and also people should not expect that all the release of Kapi like v1 Alpha 3 will be tested for new or implemented for supporting new Kubernetes release. And yeah, that's the concept. More or less, it applies the same for v1 Alpha 4 and the 04 branch. The only difference is that this branch is planned to go end of support in April. And similar goes for the v1.0 branch that technically it is already end of support, given that we have v1.1. So yeah, that's the news. If you keep up with release, you don't have problem. Otherwise, please let us know. This is those are basically the dates that we agreed in the community.
Okay, great. Sagar, I see you have your hand raised.
Yeah, I had a quick one for Fabrizio and all the other maintainers. So since we talked about the end of support for v1 Alpha 3 and v1 Alpha 4 API versions, is there any particular guidance that you'd like to share with the providers as to how, or if like there should be a similar sunset for each of these versions in the providers?
I think so. These dates basically are a consequence of the API guarantees. So one API version gets deprecated after a certain time, the following one gets released, stuff like that. So let me say it's part of the sanity of the project, and this applies to provide as well to keep things moving and to have a support matrix that you can manage. So yeah, I suggest that you also make clear your deadlines and stuff like that.
Yassine, go ahead.
Yeah, in general, like providers can't really make guarantees of support if the foundation that they're based upon isn't actually like supportable. So if Kapi is dropping some support, then providers should follow along within roughly the same timelines, I think.
Okay. I'm not seeing any more hands, so I guess we'll move on to the next topic. Stefan, you've got a couple here. Why don't you take it away?
Yep. Can you give me co-host? Just share my screen. Mike, can you give me co-host so I can share? I also have some other.
Yeah, sorry. Let me see if I can work that out.
Yeah, should be just right click and then give co-host or something.
Okay, you should have it, and I will stop sharing.
Okay. Yep, you should see it, I hope.
Yep, I can see it.
Okay, good. So first topic is JSON log format. Essentially, we have a, yeah, let's start with that. So we had an issue for a while that I created that we want to support JSON log format. So currently in Cluster API, and I think in the other providers too, we are using Klog, and Klog only supports the text format by itself. And that issue is about logging JSON log format. First of all, why should that make sense? Essentially, if you try to parse those logs in some tools like Kibana or Loki or somewhere else, usually you have to figure out a way to parse our regular logs. Oh, let me just open some random test shop for a moment. Footnotes. So we are already having a structured logging in our controllers. So we have key value pairs and all that fun stuff. But our logs are looking like that. So essentially you get a text format, you have some header, some controller, and then you have this non-ideal key value format. So if someone wants to use those logs and filter in UIs, they actually have to parse that format, which is kind of hard. So yeah, the proposal is essentially to just log as JSON format, and then you already have the structure and you can just take it. So for example, I have a PR for exploration. So if you take that PR and enable the JSON log format, your logs will all look like that. And if you just send them to Loki and without any additional parsing, let's drop that for now. So if you just have those logs, we are doing that with Promptail, by the way, and you will get that if you use our tilt setup. So that's all included. You just have to enable observability, but that's documented. So when you enable JSON log format per default, you are getting that. So there is some metadata which we get from Promptail, and we have some additional stuff which is automatically detected by Loki in that case. I have no idea how other tools are handling that, but probably similarly. But you can only filter on key value pairs that are actually already in the structure. You can't filter on those detected fields, and I assume it's probably similar in other tools. So usually you have to create some kind of regex to parse the text format. If you have JSON format, at least in Loki, I'm not sure how other tools are doing that. Maybe they are just detecting JSON and are parsing automatically, or maybe you have to do some kind of, hey, please JSON parse me that thing. But if you do JSON parsing, then you have all those attributes. So you can just immediately say, hey, in that log line, we are talking about a specific cluster. So you can just filter on that cluster. And now you see all those logs related to that specific cluster. I don't want to go into a lot of further details, but then you can, I don't know, just highlight the messages and drill down essentially to a specific cluster or machine or whatever you want. So TLDR, you could already do this today by filtering our text format, but it would be way easier to avoid that parse configuration for everyone by just exposing JSON log format. Okay, coming back to the issue, I just want to, let's say, tease that issue. I think we have to have a larger discussion, I guess, but we can discuss after demo. But probably a lot of folks want to read all that stuff. So some considerations around that. So as I said, Klog doesn't support the JSON log format, but what we can use is something called component-based /logs. Component-based /logs is what the core Kubernetes components are using for logging. So when you look at a Kube API server or a scheduler, they're using that library. That library is leveraging Klog, but it also implements a JSON log formatter to provide that format because Klog itself doesn't do it. So what we can do is we can configure our logging with component-based logging. What we will get is the JSON log format and a few other things. And that's where it starts to get complicated because we have to figure out if it's fine for us to build a dependency on component-based logs, or if we say, oh, maybe let's do our own thing. So what we also get is an experimental logging sanitation flag. So in Klog, there's something like log sanitation. So certain structs are automatically filtered out, so you don't leak secrets. You can also add a tag on your own structs to filter out specific fields of specific structs. So there's that flag enabled by component-based logs, which enables that feature. But we would still have to label tag our own structs to enable that feature for our structs. And another topic, it would deprecate the Klog flags for us. So there's also a cap which I linked here. The current state, or let's say the state in Kubernetes before 123 is that they're essentially leaking Klog flags. So every of their components has all Klog flags. And they now decided that they don't want to keep all of them because some of them are not ideal. More details in the cap, but essentially there are a bunch of flags for file logging. So you can decide, please log in that specific file and do log rotation and all that stuff. And as you probably all know, in Kubernetes, it's actually just recommended to log on standard out and standard error. So they want to get rid of those flags. And that deprecation is already implemented in component-based logs. So you wouldn't have to do it ourselves. We could just use the library, then we get a deprecation. And with Kubernetes 1.26, they would just vanish. Yeah. So that was a lot of information. I hope it made sense. Would be great if folks have an opinion on that, can take a look, post comments. Yeah. In my opinion, we should use component-based logs because it has a bunch of advantages and we can align to upstream components. But maybe there's a certain danger in depending on that dependency. Yep. Comments, concerns?
That's very cool, Stefan. Yeah, so I guess if anyone here is kind of interested by this or curious about it, please go and leave some comments on the PRs and whatnot. Just kind of help the discussion move forward here. And you got the next topic too, Stefan. So go ahead.
Yep, I just switched to the agenda. Yeah. So next topic we will do. I'm not sure what we called it. I just called it Let's Chat About. So we'll do a session tomorrow in roughly EU, Asia time zones. So it's 11 Central European time. And it's about code structure in core cluster API, makefile targets, how to develop locally. So that's around tilt and how to debug with tilt. The idea is that Fabrizio and I will just show it, more or less like a hacking session or something. And if folks have questions, please bring us our questions. We want to make that interactive and not just a boring presentation. Yeah, so that's the idea. As I said, tomorrow, 11 CT, that's the Zoom link. We will record it and we will schedule another one in an US-friendly time zone or time. So yeah, that's it.
Cool. That sounds awesome. It might be a little early for me, but I would love to be there because I have fought with tilt far too many times. So, all righty. So I'm going to share my screen again here. It looks like Rohit, you are up next with the CAP-C. So if you want to go ahead and start talking about that, please feel free.
Sure. Thank you, Mike. So just, I think we have sort of introduced ourselves. So on this call is joining, colleagues from AWS, Vipin, Peter, and Vignesh, and I'm from ShapeBlue. It's a joint collaboration between AWS and ShapeBlue. We have created a CAPI provider called CAP-C for Cloud Stack. So Cloud Stack, Apache Cloud Stack is an infrastructure as a service cloud computing platform used by a lot of companies and users worldwide. And we think with this sort of provider, it will give an opportunity to Kubernetes user to use cluster API with Cloud Stack using CAP-C. So that's the project. And I think what we have done is we have put together a proposal document. And this is the first time, I think, a couple of us are actually joining the SIG. So we don't know exactly what the process is. So we started by starting a mail thread on the mailing list to seek some guidance. From that, we discovered that you have this weekly call, and We have put together a Google Doc to say, what the project is about. What we intend to find out is are we on the right track, get guidance from the SIG, specifically people on this call, how do we proceed next? And the ultimate goal is to build a small community within the SIG around CloudStack and the CAPC. And we have also proposed a new Slack channel to be created. And I think I was advised to get support, like someone from SIG to add a +1 or approval on the pull request. So we need, we'll be thankful if we can get support for that also. And that's pretty much it. Like, what is the process? We have the repository that you just opened there. So how do we get it migrated with the SIG? So any guidance is welcome. And we also have Vignesh, Peter, also Vipin with us. So if you have anything to add.
No, I think you covered it all, Rohit. So we just wanted to get guidance from the host as well as the leadership here.
So let me just add one more update before we get the guidance, which is where does it stand right now? So this is functional now. So before we get to the SIG, we thought we should do a round of testing to kind of say whether it works or not. So just to give you a brief summary, we've tested with the latest 4.16 version of CloudStack as well as slightly older 4.14 version of CloudStack. Right now, we have tested this against couple of templates of different Linux distros, including Ubuntu 20.04, RHEL 8, Rocky Linux 8, CentOS 7. Couple of distros, we actually added support for that in the image builder project. So me and my colleagues were the one who added support for RHEL 8 and Rocky 8 for the KEMU builder. So we've already gone through that. Some of us have already signed the CLA as well. And we have tested this against the three main hypervisors that CloudStack support and many of the CloudStack users use, namely VMware, XenServer, /XCPNG, and KVM.
I mean, it sounds really great, Rohit and team. Like, it sounds like you're really well prepared and you've kind of tested this stuff out. I don't know, like Fabrizio or Vince or maybe Cecile, did you want to chime in on kind of what the next step to getting these graduated into the Kubernetes SIG is, or maybe do we have a link that would describe some of these things?
Yeah, I can chime in. First of all, welcome and congrats for the great work that you are doing so far. So I think that if I remember well, in the email thread, you already got a couple of links about the process of donating the repository is described. So briefly, you need a +1 from the SIG lead. In this meeting, there is Vince. You can join the SIG cluster lifecycle meeting on Tuesday, this hour, to basically make your case with the other leads. Usually, this is a formality because we like the community growing, and then basically, you have to open a ticket to get a repo, and you have to fix up stuff about the license in your repo, and also make sure that the dependencies that you are importing are compliant with the CNCF guidelines. And yeah, that's it. Once you are in the repo, then you can start to leverage on test infra, all the CNCF infrastructure. This gets a little bit complicated since you need basically a set of various backend that I'm not sure, or I don't believe that many of them are available in as offered by CNCF. So you can start discussion with the CNCF on how to get this type of infrastructure managed, or you can test on your own infrastructure and then upload the test results in Kubernetes Let's Grid. So it is something that it isn't something that you can tackle over time, but and yeah, that's it. I don't know if Vince or someone else want to add something.
Yassine has his hand up.
Yeah, I think that like, yeah, plus one to what Fabrizio said, eventually like over time also, once you have like the repo in there, like you can take a look at the existing providers that you can see a bunch of the, you're going to see on the test info repo, a bunch of the configuration and the prod jobs that you'll likely want to have, like things like EDE integration, linters, and all of these kind of things, so that like the providers is on par with the others. There's also probably the, like if you're not leveraging it already, like the EDE framework that is provided by Cluster API in order to automate your end-to-end tests. There are a bunch that are already predefined and that you likely want to run against your provider.
Right. Thank you, Fabrizio and Yassine. So just one more bit of data. So while we were like developing this, we were referencing a couple of other providers just to keep a guidance of the structure of code base and whatnot. So from the beginning, we have used the Apache license version 2. And I think I didn't mention, but yes, we have actually run the E2E test and passed the conformance test also for the provider.
That's awesome to hear. So it sounds like we have some solid next steps there. Does that sound good to you and the team, Rohit?
Yeah, I think we'll take the guidance. And first of all, thank you, Fabrizio and Yassine and Mike, for all the guidance. As you advised, we'll join the next call on Tuesday to get support with Vince. One thing is still not clear with me is the document draft acceptable as is? Do we need to make changes to the the Google Doc we've shared? And the second question is about getting set up a new Slack channel for this project, or does that come, let's say, afterwards, like after you get support from the SIG leader?
Fabrizio, go ahead.
So for the document, as far as I'm aware, there is no need to prepare a document to make your case, but feel free to work on it and keep your as your working document as you wish. For the Slack channel, I'm not sure that you need a repository first, or you can have the Slack channel before the repository. I will check out and comment on the PR.
Okay, thank you, Fabrizio.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. So yeah, next step, we'll be on the meeting next Tuesday and go from there.
Cool, awesome. And I guess it'll be great to have a new another cloud provider here. So very cool. All right, so Fabrizio, next up with the Cluster API Runtime SDK proposal.
Thank you. So I'm really happy to talk about this proposal. This is something that, in my opinion, will be the next big thing in Cluster API. So a quick introduction. Basically, what is the idea is to implement in Cluster API a mechanism that is inspired from Kubernetes admission webhook. So, and this will basically allow application built on top of Cluster API to hook into the workload cluster lifecycle. So this will allow you, for instance, to, I don't know, block an upgrade before you do something, or to postpone a machine deletion to do because you want to, I don't know, clean up services, or to do something before a machine gets remediated, or stuff like that. So this PR is called Cluster API Runtime SDK, because in order to get there, we need some foundation in place. And the document at the end is quite complex or long, because it is divided in two main parts. The first one is a kind of developer guide for people writing a runtime extension. And the second part is it is basically the implementation guide for Cluster API maintainers that want to offer new runtime hooks. So there is this, like in Kubernetes extension, there is two actors, two personas that are involved in developing extension, and this document tries to address concern and things for both. and it also take a stab of how are we going runtime extension version, or what will be deprecation and stuff like that. And so there is a lot of it, but I'm really excited about this improvement and looking forward for community feedback.
All right, so there's a lot to go through here. I know I certainly have not read it all yet. Does anybody have questions though, or any comments people wanted to make about the Cluster API Runtime SDK? Alberto, go ahead.
Hey, yeah, thanks a lot for Richard for putting that together. I think it's a great proposal. I'm just curious about what use cases we have out there, like that would benefit from this. So just to encourage people to share in that doc or maybe on the Slack channel about the particular challenges and use cases that people had that we are going to be able to solve. And also, do you see this superseding the existing hooks that we have for the with the annotation, or do you see something different?
Yeah, go ahead, Fabrizio.
Yassine raising his
No,
hand
go ahead.
first.
Oh, I thought you were responding. Like I was going to let you respond to Alberto. I thought Yassine had a different question. If I'm reading this.
Okay. Oh, okay, so let me answer to Alberto. So first of all, about deprecation, it is stated as a future goal. I hope that runtime extension will provide a better semantics about machine deletion hooks. So it could provide, I don't know, an higher number of information to choose to decide what to do, and could allow a finer control on deletion. And so I hope that in the future we will delete it, but it's too early to state. About use cases, we had a discussion around a bunch of them. One is, for instance, is add-ons. I want to install some add-ons before upgrade or after the first control plane get upgrade or stuff like that. We had use cases about cluster class patches. We want to use runtime extension to do patches, implement patches in code instead of using declaring them in YAML in the cluster class object, so you can get them versioned, stuff like that. And yeah, and there are others, but I agree with you. We should start collecting them in a more systemic way.
Awesome, thanks a lot.
Okay, Yassine next, and then Matt after.
Yeah, to add to what Fabrizio said, Alberto, one of the other use cases is likely going to be for providers CPI and CSI migration. So as these are gonna come up, this way it can be a powerful hook to actually get our users from in-tree to out-of-tree cloud providers and CSI.
And apologies, Yassine, I didn't realize you were responding to Alberto there.
Oh, no worries.
Okay, Matt, you're next.
Hi, I started reading this earlier. I had an extremely high-level query, which I'm not sure how I'd fit it in a document comment. The API seems to be effectively event-based, layered on top of a declarative API. Are there any concerns around an impedance mismatch there? For example, missed events, etc.
Yeah, that's a right tool and a really deep question. I like it because it means that basically a document is driving in the right direction. I think that, yeah, cluster API is a declarative system, but at the same time, the infrastructure. We are driving infrastructure through imperative steps. So we basically control the cluster has been provided, or the first machine is being provided. So I'm pretty confident that we can have reliable moments. We can identify moments reliable in between the transition from one state to the other. I hope this answered the question.
Matt, did that answer your question?
Yes, Fabrizio has thought about it. So yeah, the devil's there subsequently in the detail.
Okay, cool. Any other questions or comments around this proposal? All right, I'm not seeing anything. So Fabrizio, you've got the next topic here as well.
Yeah, quick one. As usual, after each main release, we do a check and update on our owner files. If you are interested in stepping up, take a look at our contribution ladder if you are in, and reach out, and hopefully we can have some new contributor, or new maintainer or reviewer also this cycle.
Yeah, and we've got all these new people here today too. So here's a great way to get involved. All right, Yassine, you're up next.
Yeah. So yeah, over the past week, I've been looking at some inconsistencies between our providers, and the first one that I stumbled across is actually the way we are enabling users to set the local API server port. So today, like, providers are either relying on a field that wasn't supposed to be actually a way to set the API server port, which is like cluster spec, cluster network, API server port. So yeah, they're either relying on that, or to set like the load balancer port instead of the API server port, or they're just ignoring it. So like, yeah, well, this issue is basically, if you scroll down at the bottom, we started like brainstorming with Fabrizio, and we started adding some ideas. So if you scroll a bit more, like one of the issues that we have today is at two levels. The first one is we don't have a reliable way to set the local API server port, and we don't have a way or an official way to set the port on the load balancer on the control plane endpoint. So those are like two problems. The first one regarding the regarding the local API server ports. So since providers are already tied and are doing what they're doing with the current field, what we're proposing is introducing like within this release, like a new field that is on the same struct in the cluster network, that is called like local API server port or binding port. This field would specifically be as part of the contract for providers to set for like Bootstrap providers to set the local API server port. For example, CapBK would look into this field and insert directly the binding port into the init and join configuration, and eventually like deprecate the first field, which is like was used inconsistently across providers. And as the community starts looking at the next API version, then we can start about discussing about the removal of the field. Another thing is probably worth documenting that cluster spec control plane endpoint .host and port are likely the places where users should set the port and the host if they want to bring in their own control plane. So that's a second step for for providers that are already offering, you know, a way to set the port for their load balancer. We need to provide them with an alternative. And in my opinion, like the natural alternative in terms of user experience is using what we already have for the control plane endpoint. So yeah, please feel free to chime in the issue, add any ideas, thoughts, or anything that we might be missing.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So if anybody is kind of curious about that, please take a look at the issue and yeah, leave a comment or leave your opinion. Yassine, it looks like you got the next one as well.
Yeah, so for this one, it is more a follow-up on the discussions that we've had in the last office hours regarding issues with the kubelets located in the control plane endpoint, pointing to the actual load balancer. And in case of upgrades, as you can see, it can break existing setups. Plus, for public cloud providers, when you're using internal load balancers, you can end up in a hairpin issue where like a machine that is the control plane node, part of the backend of the load balancer, cannot reach out through the load balancer itself. So like so far there seems to be a few suggestions here and there, but yeah, this is mainly to confirm that this is still an issue that we probably need to address, especially that we're rolling out private clusters in the various providers.
Okay, so is this another issue where you're looking for input from the community, or?
Yes, mainly input to see like if they're like yeah. As of now, the providers that I know of that can be affected by this are probably AWS and Azure. Yeah, if you're on other providers, please feel free to add anything that might be related to that.
Okay, great. So some of this is kind of like information gathering too, to see like who is being affected by this issue. Yes. That might not be included there. Okay, great. Shyam, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, just to add on that, so I've been testing this feature in Kubedium for private clusters in Azure. So in Azure, we have a workaround where we map the control plane endpoint to local hosts so that it doesn't get routed through the load balancer. So I tried like removing that hack and testing it with just having Kubedium installed. What I observed was Kubedium was still using the control plane endpoint for kubelet config, kubelet.conf, which is the kube config for kubelet, which uses the control plane endpoint to basically register the node. So and it fails because of the hairpin issue. So we still have to like figure out a way to not use control plane endpoint for kube config files.
Yassine, go ahead.
Yeah, and there's also the issue that Lubomir is pointing on the Kubedium issue, which is initially if you scroll, you would end up in situation where basically your kubelet would need to do the CSR and everything would work eventually if like the local API server and KCM is the leader. And if that's not the case, then it wouldn't work. So it's kind of a rolling dice situation where it can work sometimes, but sometimes it wouldn't.
Okay. And, Shyam, I don't know if you're following this issue or not, but it sounds like it might be worth adding your comments here as well, just so people kind of know what you're experiencing.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Cool. Thank you. All right. Any other comments on this topic? I guess anything else? We're at the end of the meeting now. So if nobody has any ad hoc or last minute topics, we could probably take 10 minutes of our day back here. All right. I'm not seeing any hands raising, so I'm going to stop the recording and thank you all for joining us today.